Sleep is having a moment. You know, human health has three pillars of health. There's sleep, there's diet and exercise. And we focus a lot on diet and exercise. But people are finally realizing sleep is the most important of those three. So what you'll see at the World Sleep Congress is a lot of science around sleep and health, sleep and wellness, but also sleep disorders, which are extremely important. Lots and lots of people don't sleep well. In fact, in Asia, more than 70% of people report having insomnia and having poor sleep. And so trying to make sure that you are sleeping enough and healthy enough to live your life is a really big deal, and the World Sleep Congress helps highlight all of that.
Yeah, one of the big things that, of course, disturbs sleep is what's known as sleep apnea, right? We were talking offline a couple of seconds ago. You've got it, I've got it as well. And for Resmed, right, the answer to that are CPAP machines, which is probably the company's biggest source of revenue. What are the latest developments in CPAP machines?
Yeah, great question. So, a lot of people have misconceptions about both sleep apnea and the therapy. And the gold standard therapy is CPAP. It stands for continuous positive airway pressure. And it's a device that basically takes the air from your bedroom and puts it in your lungs where it belongs. In sleep apnea, the airway collapses, like all of the muscles in our body. When you sleep, everything relaxes, including the muscles in your throat. And in some people, because of their anatomy, it closes off and you suffocate multiple times every hour. As you mentioned, I have sleep apnea and I sleep with a CPAP device, and it is Resmed's primary or largest line of business. However, there are other therapies. Resmed actually is involved in many of them. We've invested in things like their mandibular devices that move your jaw so you can breathe. There are even other therapies, nerve stimulation, pharmaceutical therapies, and Resmed's involved in all of those. Yeah. But CPAP is the gold standard, and it's the one that works for everybody every time.
You guys are not into surgical intervention, right? Because that is also an option for some people at least, right?
There are surgical interventions. We do have a small investment in a company that does an implant similar to like a lead from a pacemaker, but it does still involves a procedure. It's invasive. The nice thing about CPAP, no knives, no needles, no surgery, no drugs. It's just air.
So I'm glad you talked about mandibular devices, right? Because I mean, on social media, it's like every other post on my feed, at least, is some newfangled mandibular device hawked by I don't know who, right? As, hey, this really works. We'll get to that in just a bit, but back to CPAP machines. One of the issues with CPAP machines, and this is from people who sell the stuff, right? Not just Resmed machines, because you've got competitors, right? It is the gold standard, yes, but the problem is a lot of people don't stick with it because it's just so darn uncomfortable to wear at night. And I know, look, generationally, machines get better and better. They get more comfortable, easier to use, etc., less intrusive when you sleep, etc. But still, how do you deal with this issue?
It's a great question. And as I mentioned, there's still some misperceptions. And the CPAP machines of today are not like your grandfather's CPAP machine. They're very small, quiet, comfortable, and probably more important, they're connected to the cloud. So we did a beautiful scientific study where if you say you and I are both diagnosed today and you get a regular CPAP and I get one that's connected to the cloud so my doctor can see the results, I have a much better chance of adhering to therapy. You're probably going to 50-50 chance you'll adhere to your CPAP therapy. My adherence jumps up to over 70%. If a patient downloads our app and they see the results themselves, they can see the data themselves, adherence jumps to over 85%.
If they see evidence.
If they see the evidence. The other thing is understanding, as I mentioned at the beginning, the importance of sleep in human health. Untreated sleep apnea increases mortality by 35%, increases cardiovascular mortality by 55%. This is recently, like within the last year, published scientific evidence. So it's a big deal. And when you think of the comorbidities and the health conditions that are made worse by untreated sleep apnea, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, arrhythmias, even things like dementia are made worse, and the risk is increased if you have untreated sleep apnea. So it should scare everyone. If your loved one says it sounds like you stop breathing while you sleep,
it's because you have.
Ask your doctor.
Yeah.